Hello Chassos, welcome to a very quick video where we're going to be talking about what is likely my favorite enhancement from the auxiliary Carter detachment, and that is the Transponder lock module. Now the Transponder lock module has a few key applications that I think are going to seat it as a very nice include for what is on the higher side of the points in terms of the enhancements we have available to us. But I think for the effect, you're paying a premium to get a premium result out of it. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to do the internet things down below, and while you're there, check out the Patreon to support me, the channel, and get access to the Discord and all the stuff we have going on, as well as the website to get yourself some coaching with me and take yourself from being a Chassos to a Chassos. Alright, so Transponder lock module, what does it do? This allows the bearer and his unit to deep strike turn 1, 2, or 3, rather than the normal restriction in the prior Nexus mission pack, which is that a unit that starts the battle in reserves cannot be set up within the first battle round for any reason unless an ability specifically overrides it, like this one. Now, there are a couple of places that you could put this, but one of the most obvious answers for me is a fire knife unit. That has missile pods or plasma rifles, and there are two different things that I want to talk about, two applications of where we can put this. The first I've already shown off on stream, which is the plasma unit, which is able to turn 1, deep strike and alpha strike something with the plasmas. Pair this with a Vespid unit. If you go second, they can uppy downy with you, jump in around your bases, and then be in range to give you the +2 strength for the stratagem. Yes, you won't get the -1 AP from those Vespid because you have to deep strike outside of 9, but that's not why we're putting them there. We're putting them there for the +2 strength, which means strength 10 plasmas become a bit of a nightmare. But I've already shown that off, and what I wanted to talk about was actually putting it on our missile knives. Now, this unit is something that we normally keep safe. We get value over time. I've used this to great effect in Kalyon, Montcar, Retaliation Carter, and now in Ox Carter. And the premise for using this is actually very, very simple, because normally during our deployment, you have to position them in a way where nobody's getting any line of sights on them turn 1. So you're usually more conservative than you would like them to be, because if your opponent mispositions or the terrain really favors that 30-inch shooting unit, you're in a position where you likely can't get to it turn 1 and you have to wait until turn 2. For things like Kalyon, where you've got exemplar the Kalyon turning on in a turn, you don't normally want to expose them that early, but there are opportunities where you can cut their head off the snake and make it so that a game basically snowballs in your favor by deleting a key unit or getting a significant amount of damage down on them. Now with the Transponder lock module, you have that unit safely sitting in reserves, and you're able to place them down on the board on any angle that your opponent can't deny with the 9-inch bubble, and be able to throw those missiles 30 inches and still be relatively safe for doing so. It also means that if you want to, you can just set them up somewhere within your deployment zone or just outside of your deployment zone, staging them where you would have anyway, but taking away the opportunity for your opponent to alpha strike them in any way, shape, or form if you had have deployed them on the line, being a little bit more aggressive with them. Essentially what this represents is a little bit of mind games with your opponent and options to be able to solve problems. You may not end up using the turn 1, but you can guarantee that it's sitting on your opponent's mind and making it so that they have to consider that with everything that they do, potentially causing an unforced error. But it also doubles as a little bit of defensive, because your very high value unit that you're using to get value across the course of the game, with a deep strike, you can basically position wherever you want as long as your opponent isn't fast enough to deny the entire board, which they likely won't be, especially given that we have enough Kroot in this detachment that we are kind of taking over the rest of the board and dominating where our opponent can put things and where they can't. And with a 30-inch range, it's not like we're trying to fit in 12-inch flamers. We're throwing these kind of wherever we want. So it represents a nice little bit of tech that is making its way into a number of lists that I'm writing. And yes, I'm giving away maybe one of the strats that I'm going to use for Masters coming up, but hey, that's the life of a content creator, can't do anything about it. So let's pop over to TTS and I'll show you essentially what I was thinking about. Okay, so here we are on our practice setup, and I just wanted to point out a few key things. The first is that in certain list styles, especially ones with a bunch of Devilfish style bodies, Hammerhead, Skyrays alike, you often find that you've got a little bit of a parking lot, meaning that it's even harder to position your fine knife squad in. So this clears up a lot of room, not having such a high value unit have to give way to a bunch of other vehicles to have them not get shot at and deleted turn 1. But then also in this example, where we've got fire prisms which are relatively well defended, put in positions where they can't easily be seen turn 1, utilizing the same angles that we're using on our Hammerhead, whatever else, we have an opportunity to be able to put these guys down kind of wherever we needed to. Now, in the first instance, I've had a Pathfinder unit that hasn't made its scout move yet, but if we were to go forward like this, that means that we can see this fire prism and this fire prism. Now, if we were to consider something like dropping a fire knife squad in like this, we're taking an objective, we're outside of the 9-inch deep strike, absolutely. And it also means that we have line of sight. Pair into this that I'm not even moving any of the Crute units. You can also set up move blocking and jailing behind this unit sitting there and giving your opponent a lot to worry about and potentially not even being able to retaliate to the fire knife suits. Bearing in mind that this is the minimum that a Crute Hound unit moves with a 7-inch scout and a 12-inch move. And this we haven't even chose to advance them yet if we wanted to. So if our opponent doesn't have a ton of fly, which there are plenty of armies that have stuff that just have to walk along the board, it might even be that we can set up where these guys don't get to sit in front of us. So I just rolled a 6 on my advance roll. And there's a world where we set up a jail like this where he physically cannot move through here, especially if he doesn't have infantry units. And as we've seen from a few infantry units, not a lot can threaten a crisis unit in a very meaningful way on their own. Usually they have to be like heavy support platforms or vehicles or whatever, because us being a T5 means the bolt guns basically do nothing. And if we can block out their melee, all the better. So not only do we get this in a position where we can shoot turn 1, the Pathfinder's Guide, and then are able to shoot into the fire prism over here, we're able to get these guys onto strength 9 missile pods. And in order to achieve that, all we simply have to do is just put a Crute or Vespid unit behind, because they don't need to be visible to them for the +2 strength, they just need to be wholly within 9. We are easily able to do that from a staged position where we can then move the Vespid out on the next turn and then fire into the fire prism. We're getting full rerolls to hit, we're ignoring cover, and we are now at strength 9 at his toughness level. So it means that we're winning on 4s. Damage 2, we only need 6 of them to go through in order to kill this thing. And with it only having a 3-up save, it means it's going to be saving on 5s, which is really likely to have happen. And this is just one example of the applications of being able to do this. You have the entire board with which to be able to come down and punish somebody. And if your opponent is particularly cavalier with where they position their units, if your opponent doesn't deep strike deny you, you have a unit that can come in, shoot at a unit, have a commander that can happily split fire. And this is where I've started going to having a commander with a cyclic, a high output burst cannon, and 2 missile pods, because the missile shots are usually enough for whatever we're wanting to go into. The high output burst cannon lets him split fire into a lot of different types of infantry units and still do quite well. This could be something that we consider, because this immediately exerts pressure on our opponent's backfield, removes something or 2 units that they want to use throughout the course of the game, and make it so that everything else which is barreling down the board at them is even more effective, because we are pressuring them so much and they have to commit resources back here to deal with this, while the rest of our stuff, like rampages, like hammerheads, like riptides, like broadsides, whatever, are heading down the board to do what they do best. And I'll say again, none of this stuff is what you're guaranteed to do, but having options with a unit to see an opening, be able to take it, and train that real Montcar killer instinct is a very important thing for Tau players, because there are some games that you can end on turn 1. Your opponent might not realize it at the time, but it starts a death spiral where the game just gets out of their control. We hold everything comfortably, and we've done the critical damage that we needed to do very early on. And that's our video. I hope that you all enjoyed it and got something out of it. Obviously a little bit quicker, but I just wanted to throw this information out there so that you can start applying it and using it in your games. If you enjoyed this and you'd like to get some one-on-one time with me, want to consider grabbing some coaching either from the website or from joining our Patreon as we push to doing all of this full time. Also, don't forget to bless us with the algorithm gods and hit a like and a comment and a share down below, or don't. I'm not your dad. Thank you very much to all of my patrons who make all of my videos possible. If you would like to join them, there are links in the description. But that is our video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.